Welcome back. Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. I'm Seth Leibson. The phone number is 602-508-0960. Nancy Pelosi held her weekly press conference today. And of course, the main topic she brought up and the questions were about had to do with Kevin McCarthy saying he is going to pull all his appointees, nominees to the Select Committee investigating January 6th. He shouldn't have sent any in the first place. Having failed that, he sent the wrong group, but for one, Jim Jordan. I had no idea who the other four were. I would have liked to have seen him appoint seasoned fire breathers like Jim Jordan. Of course, you saw by just appointing Jim Jordan and another Mr. Banks, who's the head of the RSC, Nancy Pelosi vetoed those things. I guess if you're a Democrat, you can tell Republicans who can represent their point of view. This has been the case with the Democrats wanting not just to run, obviously, the country from the perspective they see fit, but now they want to run the Republican Party the way the Democratic Party seems to see fit. If you want to correct me for calling it the Democratic Party, this would be a good example. There is nothing democratic about what Nancy Pelosi is saying. She is now lecturing Republicans who can and cannot represent them. We talked about authoritarian personality disorder once before or twice before on this show, and I think of it as no greater instantiation than in the Speaker of the House of Representatives. By what right does she have to say a duly elected member of Congress from the state of Ohio and Jim Jordan, who sits on the Judiciary Committee, does not have a right to serve on the Select Committee he was appointed to by his own minority party leader? By what right does she have the same right that this government thinks it has to use private entities like Facebook and Twitter to monitor and thus then ideally shut down communications by American citizens that they disagree with? For the first time in American history, you have an American presidency, an administration that is applying a test of truth to the First Amendment. That has never been what the First Amendment was about. And as I have read before, Supreme Court cases going back all the way to 1964 claim that you cannot use truth as a test of your First Amendment rights, which brings us to yet a third problem, which is whose truth? Nancy Pelosi's truth or the truth? They are not always the same thing. Jen Psaki's truth or the truth? They are not always the same thing. Just yesterday, we read you the tweets of Jen Psaki saying still that the Hunter Biden story, the Hunter Biden laptop story, was a Russian disinformation campaign. Yet she claims to have the mantle of truth, so much so that she can deploy government agents to filter out on Facebook and Twitter what we mere plebeians, American citizens, want to talk about and think is the truth. Let me give you an example of why the First Amendment and free speech really matters. There's a debate going on in conservative circles in Washington, D.C., having to do with welfare policy. And I am privileged, I suppose, to be on an email chain of, 40 people involved with this. And it got rather heated between two sides in our movement, between two scholars. And in that there are a number of other people on the email, others are weighing in and chiming in. No doubt you've been part of these things. I'm sure no doubt sometimes you've tried to unsubscribe from these kind of group emails that you didn't ask to be part of and didn't ask to have going on. I've read it, and I'll tell you, I've learned a lot. But what will come of this amongst these scholars? I'm not one of them. I'm just, for some reason, I was CC'd on it, I think because I knew some of the people. Who knows? But whatever reason I'm on this list, what will come of this? What will come of this vigorous debate, and it is vigorous, between these several scholars on welfare policy in our movement, will be great public policy, or at least great explanation, or at least great analysis, or at least great understanding. This is why Supreme Court justices from probably 1947 forward have said that not only is the best test of truth its ability to succeed in the marketplace, but that through the competition of ideas, through the combat of ideas, through the testing of ideas, through reasoned intellectual debate, will come the best solutions. That's obviously not what the Democrats want. Otherwise, they'd be in favor of free speech. They do not want a competition of ideas. Their view of a competition of ideas goes roughly like this. We're going to take over the schools and we're going to endow schools to use curricula that we see fit. We are going to bribe schools to use critical race theory curricula. When the Republicans find out, we will deny that it's happening. When they find out again that it actually is happening, we will quietly stop it and hope they forget and move on to the next thing. The problem being is that once you break the bottle and the genie is out, it's not in your skill set to put that bottle back together and put the genie back in. They have, in other words, released the critical race theory kraken, if I can say that. That is to say, there are entire NGOs, nonprofits, industries, and individuals profiting off and peddling this thing long after the government said they would no longer be involved in it. This is how the Democrats operate on truth. Basically, they simply lie. They simply lie. And when they are caught in it, like Anthony Fauci has been any number of times and admitted to once, there's just no there's no accountability or recompense whatsoever. I was having a conversation today about the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, with someone in Washington, D.C., and I reminded him, just because I do this from time to time, this would be the same Andrew Cuomo who's mayor of New York City of the same party and whose two United States senators from the same state and the same party have called on him to resign several months ago. That Andrew Cuomo? Yes, that Andrew Cuomo. Whatever happened to that story? Did I miss something? Did Kristen Gillibrand or Chuck Schumer or Bill de Blasio rescind their request for the resignation of Governor Cuomo? No, they haven't. It's just what we find all over again with this journalistic institution called the mainstream media and the Democratic Party and the progressive left. Just forget about it. Nothing to see here and move on. Today at her press conference, Nancy Pelosi was asked by a reporter, Kevin McCarthy, he said, is planning on putting together his own January 6th commission. You know what Nancy Pelosi said? I'm not even going to entertain that question. Let's not waste each other's time. Really? She's putting together her own. She's putting together her own commission. Is it not worth a discussion as to what a shadow commission might look like? A minority report? Every select committee I know of has always had a minority report. Will there be a minority report if only Democrats show up? I tend to doubt it. What Nancy Pelosi is doing is not just stopping democracy. Ironically, the very, very thing, the self-same thing she claims took place on January 6th that requires an investigation. Not only is she stopping that and stopping regular procedures for these kinds of select committee investigations, not only is she doing that, she's coming to the court of public opinion with dirty hands. The kind of thing that if you were an attorney bringing a case to court, a judge would throw you out for. She has already judged this case, first by blaming Donald Trump for an incitement that she impeached him over, saying that he was the cause of it. I have no idea why today she gets to say in her press conference we need to find the causes of January 6th. She already told us. It was the impeachment of Donald Trump for inciting the riot. And if that wasn't enough, 7 days after January 6th, I'm reading right now a quote of hers. She said, January 6th was an epiphany for the world to see that there are people in our country, led by this president for the moment, who have chosen their whiteness over democracy. Whiteness over democracy. Well, what did Nancy Pelosi choose today when she won't let the minority party have the commission members or the Senate members of this committee that they want to put on? It's called depriving the Republicans of their ability to influence. It's called depriving Republicans of their equal station in the House of Representatives and the Senate. It's called depriving Republicans of an equal say, or at least the credible ability to dissent. It's tyranny.